Now, you might be on your wildcard for Game Week 16 with it still left, or maybe you just want to make use of your 5 free transfers. Well, in this video, I think I've got you covered as I talk you through my favourite wildcard draft for Game Week 16. All right, we're going to start by covering defences first and talk about the defence of this wildcard team. So what I've got here is projected clean sheet odds over the next sort of 5 game weeks from Solio. If you want to check out Solio, there's a link to do so in the description. Well, the top team, and it's no real surprise, the top team for clean sheet odds is Arsenal. Second, we've got Man City. I'm not fully trusting of the Man City defence, but it's hard to ignore Man City defenders on a wild card in particular, I think, or maybe with your 5 free transfers. Just with the fixtures they still have coming up, they've got some quality games coming up. They've kept a clean sheet against Sunderland at home. They're playing decently. Liverpool, on the other hand, Van Dijk may be pickable still, just with the DEFCON that he's getting, but I think while Konate is playing for Liverpool, I just think they're going to be conceding goals. Newcastle, they've been really disappointing. I've owned Chow in my team for the last couple of weeks. Not kept a clean sheet when he probably should have done. Brighton have been okay, but there's a couple of tough fixtures mixed in there. Fulham for the next couple of games, definitely decent. Not sure he'd go near Man United. Crystal Palace I don't mind for 17, 18, 19. And then Chelsea I really quite like as well. I think, though, with Arsenal being the top defence in the league, there is a question, well, in my opinion, they're the best defence in the league. I think most people would still agree with that, even with their recent performances. I think they're, obviously, without Gabriel and Saliba, they're 2 best centre-halves. So I don't think anyone would be surprised to see their levels drop a little bit in terms of how many clean sheets they're keeping. There is one debate I think they're really... There is one strong debate, I think, to be had about the Arsenal defence, though, and Arsenal in general, in the sense that what is the best Arsenal triple up at the moment? Is it to have 2 Arsenal defenders and 1 Arsenal attacker? If so, who are the best Arsenal defenders to go for? Or is it maybe just to have 1 Arsenal defender and 2 more attacking assets from Arsenal, right? And you've got to start with the goalkeeper when you're talking about this, I think, because when you look at who is the most nailed outside in the Arsenal defence, right? At the moment, it's Timber. You know, Gabriel Saliba injured. Calafiori is getting a mixture of minutes in recent games. And then obviously it's David Raya. David Raya is now, I think he's now 6 million, so the price has gone up since this graphic was taken. What we've got here is top expected points for goalkeepers according to Solio. A couple of other names I wanted to chuck in that you should, I think, could probably have in goal over David Raya. One is Kelleher. The fixtures Brentford have are really, really good. He's obviously just 4.5 million, but you look at the clean sheet record that Brentford has this season, it ain't great. And then I look to the keeper at the bottom here in Rob Sanchez. 4.8 million. He's a whole 1.2 million cheaper than David Raya. And I don't think anyone can say that Chelsea are bad defensively. I think they're pretty good. They're not quite on Arsenal's level, but I think there's a decent amount of clean sheets coming up. Sanchez definitely makes more saves than Raya does as well. So I think he's got more potential for saves points. And I think at the price differential, if you're on your wild card right now, or even maybe just considering how to use your 5 free transfers, downgrading David Raya to Sanchez or just picking Sanchez instead of Raya could be a way to go with your wild card. So there's one other player I just wanted to single out. We talked about the Man City defence looking pretty decent, being pretty good. I think Nico O'Reilly's probably the one to go for from that Man City defence. Seems to be the one that's the most attacking. A little bit of a Pep Guardiola teacher's pet at the moment. Playing 90 minutes pretty much every game. Man City do have Real Madrid midweek and Crystal Palace at the weekend. But then they play an EFL Cup game against Brentford next week. And I think if you're looking at where Man City could rotate, probably that game. I just think O'Reilly plays against Crystal Palace, regardless of what happens against Real Madrid. So with all that in mind, I think he's probably the Man City defender that I would go for. I just wanted to point him out as an option. So, if I was picking a defence for a wildcard team, I think this is most likely how it would look. We'll go with Sanchez in goal, Yuri and Timber, Anderson and O'Reilly. I think Anderson, I sort of mentioned him, well, I mentioned the Fulham defence and Anderson briefly. He's really, really good for DEFCON. I think the next few fixtures, Burnley, Forest, West Ham, they're pretty good for Fulham, aren't they? And I think he should keep some clean sheets there. Timber plays the best defence in the league. I mentioned O'Reilly. And I've gone with Sanchez here. Dubravka, I mean, he's the bench keeper, isn't he? I've gone for Gahey on the bench as well, although you might not be able to afford him depending on how much budget you have. We'll check the scores on the doors with team value and stuff at the end of the video. I think this team comes in at about 100.5 million. So most people, I think, watching this video should be able to afford it. But obviously, you can downgrade Gahey to like Chris Richards, something like that, if you need to. Mukiele, I think, is the best of the cheap defenders. And then I think just with the nature of how cheap the cheapest players go, Mark Gu at 4.2 is cheaper than any midfielder. He's just a dead spot in your team. I think you can afford to get away with that if you're on your wildcard or 5 free transfers or whatever. I think it's worth just having him in your team. Before we move on to the attacking players, I just wanted to quickly mention the FPL Cartel, a little joint project I've started with my good mate FPL Tom. If you haven't come across FPL Tom, fellow YouTuber with a really good FPL record and some fantastic FPL insights as well. We're both managing a Discord where various channels for different sort of chats, but in the main, we're in there all the time to give you advice, tips, anything you need really with your FPL team. And yeah, we're also doing an exclusive weekly podcast. If you're interested in any of that, you can sign up to the cartel using the link in the description below. We're also giving you a month's completely free as a little trial. So hopefully you like the sound of that. If you do, click the link in the description to join the cartel. All right, I wanted to look at projected goals before, well, as we go into midfielders and forwards. The top team, well, one of the top teams for projected goals, no real particular order here, but one of the real top teams for projected goals is Man City. I just think tripling up on Man City if you're on your wildcard or with your 5 free transfers is the way to go, right? I've picked O'Reilly, so you can probably guess who the other two are. I think Phil Foden is just leading the way at the moment in terms of Man City assets, and Haaland is, over the course of the season, has been the best asset in FPL, right? So I think if you're on your wildcard, looking to spend your 5 free transfers, I think having Haaland and Foden in your team is pretty much essential. And one thing I'm looking at in particular is game week 17. That's West Ham at home for Man City, 3 projected goals. That's the highest figure I've seen all season for any team. Also, rather worries me as someone who's already used my triple captain, because I think that's probably the best time to use it, isn't it, on Haaland. Liverpool are up there. They're not necessarily really struggling to score goals, but I just don't rate any of the Liverpool attackers, to be honest with you. The Arsenal attack does look interesting. Game week 17 is looking a little bit light in terms of projected goals, but I do think having some Arsenal attackers in your team makes sense. Man United, I think Bruno Fernandes is a good option from there. Then you get into Newcastle, Brighton, not really sure. Chelsea, Cole Palmer could be an option. I would say if you can afford in any way to get Cole Palmer into your team, it could be a nice differential. But I still feel like he's been slowly eased into things for Chelsea at the same time when Cole Palmer is fully 100%. We all know what he can do, right? Brentford have got a really nice fixture run as well, but I'm not sure there's one option from Brentford that makes sense, isn't there? And then the rest of the teams don't excite me all that much. I also think that the best team in FPL, a little bit of a spoiler alert in terms of the formation, but the best team in FPL probably is a 3-5-2 with the structure that I'm sort of following. So I think if you're playing a 3-5-2, spoiler alert, the front two I think is Haaland and Thiago. You know, Thiago at the price he is, the goals he's been scoring, the fixtures Brentford have, I think it makes sense to go for him up front alongside Haaland in a 2. Mark Gu, we've already got him on the bench. Well, you could probably guess it was a 3-5-2 if you saw Mark Gu was on the bench, right? So that leaves you picking 5 midfielders. And what we've got here is the top players for predicted points over the next 5 weeks in midfield. Bruno Fernandes and Saka, clear top 2. Cunha is second. Cunha is interesting. I don't mind Cunha. I'm recording this video because of the way my work schedule's working out this week. I'm recording this video on Monday. So he hasn't played in game weeks 15 yet, Cunha. So maybe he could overtake my other option as maybe the sort of 5th midfielder. Foden is in your team. Palmer, I think, is great. It's just a case of whether you can afford him. And then we go down the list. Semenyo, not been too impressed with him in recent games. Sharda, I'm just not too enamoured by his minutes should be good, but I don't know. I think there are better players. Szoboszlai's on 4 yellows. I can't fully trust Cody Gakpo and his minutes. Likewise, Wirtz. And then you get down to Elliot Anderson. I think Elliot Anderson, with the consistency of DEFCON that he's getting, the fact he's taking corners, he's just printing 4 points a game minimum, basically. I think he's a great option and pretty much a shoo-in, I think, to this wildcard team. Damsgaard is there as well. And then the current, which is mad. No, I don't know if anyone expected this at the start of the season. The current top scoring midfielder in FPL, Declan Rice. So I think, looking at that list, remembering what I had to say about midfielders and stuff in FPL, this is probably what I'm going for. Saka, Rice, Bruno Fernandes, Phil Foden, and Elliot Anderson in the midfield. I think that midfield doesn't necessarily pick itself, but it's hard to ignore the top scoring midfielder in the game. And the rest of the players, I think, are just absolutely excellent. It's hard not to own Saka, I think, ahead of Wolves at home. Bruno Fernandes, I think, is great. So is Phil Foden. And Elliot Anderson is just printing points. So I think that midfield makes sense. And like I said, Haaland and Thiago is the front two. I think this is the best team in FPL right now. A 3-5-2. A couple of players could be different. You could feature maybe someone other than Nico O'Reilly if you wanted. Maybe have triple Arsenal defence and sacrifice, or double Arsenal defence, sorry. Sacrifice one of Saka and Rice. But I think this team is pretty much bang on, really. Haaland and Thiago are just shoo-ins, I think. And obviously that would mean captaining Haaland for game week 16, with obviously a terrifying game week 17 for me in prospect. Overall then, just some quick scores on the doors from Fantasy Football Hub. All of the predicted points data you're seeing below the players here. Team value, AI rating, all of that data, I'm getting it from Fantasy Football Hub. If you want to see your team in this kind of view, you can do so in Fantasy Football Hub using the link in the description below. This team costs 100.6 million. So I think pretty much everyone watching this video should be able to afford it. If you can't, Gahey down to Chris Richards pretty much gets you there. And to be honest, I think there may be one or two other ways you could find the money as well. 67.1 predicted points in game week 16 and a whopping 98% AI rating. I haven't drawn this video out too much because I think we all know if you're watching FPL videos up until game week 16, I think you got a pretty good idea of who the best players in the game, etc. are, who's been performing well, who's in form, whatever. I just wanted to focus on getting this team out there so you can see it. Hopefully you appreciated the pace of this one. I didn't want to over-explain too much. I think this is the best team in FPL right now. Alright, well that is the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like rating. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you change about this wildcard team. And if you found it useful as well, that's worth giving me a like rating for too, I think. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. It should be just there on your screen. And yeah, that just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.